So today, guys, I'm going to be rating every single one of these ARs inside Super Red versus Blue. This video will be pretty long, so hope you enjoy. So, my rating of the worst one will probably be not to have a chrome. It would most likely be the sideways rifle, which has a damage of 33 and a fire rate of 3.5, magazine size of 0, and a reload time of 2.52. And the second worst gun is gonna be probably the Chrome Burst Assault Rifle. This one was a pretty good one. I wouldn't say it is the worst in the game, the worst assault rifle in the game. I just have to put it in the second worst, all because it is probably the second worst because of its low damage and its high. It has a pretty high fire rate and magazine size is 24, reload time of 2.9. But in general, it's just probably the second worst inside the game. And the third worst, it has to be the Huntress DMR. This one was an okay one with a fire rate of 1.46, damage 72, magazine size of 7, reload time 2.3. This would be a better one if you do give this a scope. But overall, this is a pretty bad weapon. But there is a lot of people or pros who used to use this. And the fourth worst has to be, let me see. It has to be the. I know you guys might hate on me, but it has to be the Nemesis AR. This one was an okay one, 35 damage per second, since it does have a fire rate of 5, and it can shoot 2 shots in 2 seconds. 1, 2. And also it has a magazine size of 28 and a reload time of 2.25, which isn't that long. As you can see, it isn't that long, but honestly, it is a pretty bad weapon in general. And now the fifth worst, I think, is gonna have to be the Enforcer AR. This one was a really weird one. It does have a pretty high damage. It does a damage of 43 per second, a fire rate of 4, a magazine size of 25, and a reload time of 19.8. 1.98 there. And probably the sixth worst has to be not the Fury, it has to be the Burst Assault Rifle. This one was an okay one. It does do a 3.69 fire rate, a damage of 37, a magazine size of 20, and a reload time of 2.25. The next one will have to be let's see, probably the electrical damage assault rifle. A lot of pros use this, but it kinda is a pretty bad weapon, in my opinion. No, guys, you'll probably hate on me, but it is a pretty bad weapon in my opinion. And now the next one will have to be the Flapjack rifle. This one has a pretty high bloom, a high fire rate, a pretty high magazine size, and a reload time of 3.15. Also a damage of 31, a fire rate of 6.2, and yeah, this thing is pretty bad. Especially since you reload, then it does a lot of recoil. It does have a little side recoil too, which makes this probably not breaking. And now the next one will probably have to be not the combat AR, not this one. It has to be the Warforged assault rifle. This one was an okay one, just like all the other ones. A damage of 30, a fire rate of 7.2, a pretty high structure damage you can face through pretty easily. But in my own opinion, this one would probably be a pretty bad weapon. In my opinion, I probably wouldn't use it that much. But it was an okay one. Now let's move on to the next. One that's a little better than this one is probably gonna have to be the TAC AR. This one has a pretty high fire rate. It does fry if you are pretty good with weapons with a pretty low recoil. It does have a little recoil. It might have a little side recoil. I don't actually know, but it is a pretty good weapon in general. A damage of 23, a fire rate of 7, a magazine size of 30, and a reload time of 1.9.8. And the next one has to be the Infantry rifle. Sorry if I said that wrong, guys, but it has to be the Infantry rifle. This one was an okay one, like all the other ones, but it wasn't the best. And it does do a uh, a damage of 44, a fire rate of 4, magazine size of 10, and a reload time of 2.07. Also, this does depend on the rarity. But if it's legendary or epic, then it'll have to go here. Now, the next one has to be the Suppressed Assault Rifle. This one was an okay one. It doesn't do that much damage. Pretty high fire rate. Magazine size of 30. And a reload time of 2.07. And now the next one will probably have to be this gun right here. It is the Lawless Accelerant Hollow Twister. I don't really like it that much. It does do a very low damage, fire rate of 4.5, a magazine size of 25, of course, and hold up, and a reload time of 2.6. The next one will probably have to be the Molecular Strike Clippers. This is the one in chapter 5, I think, where all the clothes were. If I'm right, tell me in the comments. But this one wasn't that good in my opinion. It does do a pretty high damage bullet drop with AR, which was kind of confusing. Why is it in? So that just makes me not really like it that much. Now, the next one will probably have to be the 2-killer combat AR. See, I am a really big fan of this one. I would take it over anything. But there is a lot more better guns, in my opinion. Moving on to the next one. The next one would probably have to be the Hammer AR. This one was the last one, and that's with pretty high damage. I think it's 34, correct me, yeah. A fire rate of 5.8, a magazine size of a 20, and a fire rate no, a reload time of 1.98. The next one is probably gonna have to be the Havoc Assault Rifle. And this one was a really good one, in my opinion. Of course, a lot of people hate on this, but it does do a pretty high damage. It's damage of 26, a fire rate of 6.5, a magazine size of 30, a reload time of 2.25. Moving on to the next one, which would probably have to be the Fury Assault Rifle. This one was a pretty good one, in my opinion. And it was an okay weapon, you know. It wasn't the best, but it did have a pretty high damage. It did a lot of damage. I think it did 26 for a legendary, and fire rate of 7.45, and magazine size of 28, and a reload time of 2.34. Moving on to the next one. It'd probably have to be the Scar. Not gonna lie, this one was a pretty fan one. A lot of people liked it at a pretty high fire rate, if you ask me, and a damage of 36, magazine size of 30, I think, and a reload time of 2.25. Moving on to the next one. It would probably have to be the Twin Mag. I'm sorry with all those Twin Mag lovers, but this one would probably have to be ranked here, all because it got nerfed pretty hard. Moving on to the next one. The next one would probably have to be the Holchester Assault Rifle. This one has a very little recoil. The only problem with it is this whenever you shoot, the bullet goes under wherever the crosshair is. That is probably why. That is the only reason why I'm rating it this low. It is pretty good in my opinion, but I don't think it was that good in my opinion. And the next one would probably have to be hold up, give me a second, would probably have to be the normal assault rifle. This is where this is a pretty good weapon, in my own opinion. It does do a damage of 36, a fire rate of 5.5, reload time of 2.25 like all the other ones, and a magazine size of 30. the next one would have to be the heavy assault rifle. Why I'm rating this a little higher than the assault rifle is not because it does a more damage than the assault rifle. It's all because of its stat. I'm kidding. Also, I was kidding on there. It is because it does a way more damage. It does a total of 8 more damage. And whenever you fire 2 shots, it hits them 88 with the max damage. Moving on to the next one. So, there is a lot of these are really good, but nothing really beats. I think I might have ranked all of these. Have I? No, I haven't ranked all of these. And the next one would probably have to be the Striker AR. Even though I didn't play here, I didn't play in the season, but in my own opinion, probably if they still had it inside the game, I would be using this thing non-stop over the Strikerverse, as you guys probably knew. Since last season, I think it was. I love the Strikerverse. And we're gonna move on to the next one, which would probably have to be... Wait, did I rank all these? No. Not yet. Not yet. Would probably have to be the Red Eye Assault Rifle. This one was a really good one with a damage of 50. No, a damage of 40, sorry. And a magazine size of 25. A fire rate of 3.5, which is pretty low, but that just doesn't really matter. And a reload time of 2.25. Now moving on to the next one. The next one would probably have to be this one. This version of the Fury assault rifle. I know, guys, you guys are probably gonna get a little mad at me for using the same exact weapon, but this one was way better than the normal one. A really high fire rate, like all the other ones, and I probably don't have to tell you about all the other ones because I think it's the same. It's just if you guys forgot, it's just a damage of 28, a fire rate of 7.6, a magazine size of 28, a reload time of 2.21. Now moving on to the next one, which I think might be the last one. I don't know, he still got a lot. And the next one would probably have to be the Burst Assault Rifle. This one was one of Fearless's favorites, and I think I like it too. It's a pretty good weapon in general, and this one was a pretty good one. With a damage of 30, 38 fire rate of 4.06, and a magazine size of 30, a reload time of 2.34. Moving on to like the last one, I think, and I think you guys all know, it has to be the MK7. Also, if you guys are wondering, where did all these ones go? All these, and these, and these, and these. Well, these are all not the ones that I'm supposed to be talking about here, because these are ones that are way too overpowered to even put in the list, in my own opinion. So, if you guys want to know the status of this, the damage is 22, fire rate of 9, magazine size of 35, and a reload time of 2.79. And this is not allowed inside creative maps, or almost banned inside creative maps, which it's still allowed inside creative maps. Just not a lot of creator maps have them because it's way too overpowered and they don't want people to use this a lot for people to destroy it, of course. Now guys, if this was a pretty good rating, rate it from 1 to 10 inside the comments. Let me know if I should do more videos like this. And hope you guys have a great day and peace out.